It is time to play what we here at The ReidOut like to call Truth or Troll. As our once and future president continues playing games with America's foreign policy, leaving us here in the media to discern what it is he really means. The latest instance features Trump's new favorite target, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who had tried to buddy up to Trump by making the now customary pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago to kneel before the golden toilets, only to wake up to Trump calling him the governor of the great state of Canada. Earlier today, Trump again wrote that many Canadians want Canada to become the 51st U.S. state, and that he thinks it's a great idea. Joke or not, truth or troll, Trump's statements as incoming president have resonance. It is in part why his tariff threat helped to precipitate a leadership crisis in Canada, which now joins France and Germany as the third major economy to plunge into political turmoil weeks before the presidential transition. So what does Trump really mean when he says he wants Canada as the 51st state? Is it a truth or a troll? And what's the impact, regardless of the intent? Joining me now is Katie Simpson, senior foreign correspondent with CBC News in Canada. It is so great to meet you, Katie. What on the Canadian side of the border, what do folks think that Trump means when he says 51st state?
Well, it's widely seen as an insult, but at the same time, Canada is sort of used to this kind of rhetoric from Donald Trump. And sort of what we're seeing in Ottawa, from the political side at least, is this urge not to overreact. Right now, the Canada-U.S. relationship is in a very difficult position, really an explosive position when you look at it, because there is that tariff threat. If Donald Trump makes good on that tariff threat, it will significantly harm the Canadian economy, likely cause thousands of jobs. Trade is the most important aspect of the Canadian economy, trade with the United States. And so if that comes to fruition, if that happens, it would be devastating for the Canadian economy. So the strategy coming from Ottawa right now, a government that is in a lot of turmoil of its own, is try to remain united, present a united front to Donald Trump, sort of try to ignore any sort of this trolling tactics and just really focus on the prize, which for Canada in this moment is avoiding those tariffs.
Is it seen as an extortion attempt to try to threaten the 25% tariffs to get something from Canada in exchange for not doing them?
What we understand from our sources is that after the Canadian delegation left the Mar-a-Lago dinner, it's that Donald Trump really wants to rack up some wins that he can point to before he even comes into office. And so Canada is trying to hit that goal. And there was a little bit of a development on that today. Trump's team put out a press release citing, Canada just announced that it's going to spend $1.3 billion to improve border security along the northern border. And they're pointing to that as a win. Now, some of Donald Trump's complaints about the Canadian border, they are absolutely not based in fact, or they're completely hyperbolic. So when he talks about fentanyl pouring in from the northern border, that's not the case. This year alone, it's something close to 50 pounds of fentanyl has crossed from Canada into the United States. Compare that to 21,000 pounds coming in from the southern border. The thing is, Canada does have some challenges when it comes to money laundering and not having strong enough laws to go after organized crime. That's something that the Canadian government is looking at, needs to do anyway. So they're trying to find win-win areas where they can cooperate with Trump because they are absolutely terrified of those 25% tariffs.
And the bottom line is that if you tank the economy of Canada, what you're going to get is actually more migration from Canada of people then coming into the United States. That's what happens when economies fall, right?
Well, the concern is that I don't think Canada knows what they would do, because it would be a crisis that is sort of the only thing is comparable is when Donald Trump first was elected and was threatening to rip up NAFTA.
Yeah.
That caused such a crisis. All the smartest people in Ottawa were put on trying to prevent that from happening. Canada's now doing that again. This is just the 2.0 version.
Because all he did was update NAFTA. He didn't get rid of it at all. Let's talk about the threat the other way, because there was one leader in Canada who threatened to shut off the power. I don't think Americans understand that we buy a lot of our power from Canada in places like Michigan. What about that threat?
So that is from Ontario Premier Doug Ford. He's sort of been a leading voice for all the premiers in Canada. Compare that to a state governor, talking about how Canada should retaliate should Trump make good on the threats. He's got a lot at stake in this because the Ontario auto sector employs thousands of people. It is a huge economic generator, and it would be particularly devastating in this province. It's the largest province in Canada. Doug Ford, any Canadians who may be watching this right now, Doug Ford has sort of this long history, very interesting path to his role in government right now. But he's sort of seen as a leading, strong voice on this, which anyone who's followed his career, he was a city councillor in Toronto. He was famously brother to the former crack-smoking mayor in Toronto, Rob Ford.
Yeah.
And so his path, he's now a two-term premier in the province of Ontario. And so he has come out to sort of be a leading voice on this issue to say, listen, we need to hit back. I think perhaps the threat is being maybe walked back just a little bit, and some of the premiers don't agree with that strategy.
And maybe hitting blue states.
Well, the concern is that it would just, if the tariffs hit, it would be just such a devastating thing.
Does Justin Trudeau survive this? And if not, who would be the person likely to replace him?
The political turmoil in Canada right now is unlike anything Justin Trudeau's ever had to deal with. His finance minister, who was also his deputy prime minister, she quit largely over a dispute on how to, face the tariffs from Donald Trump. That's how significant these threats are. Also, there is some political turmoil there about whether she was going to be shuffled out of one of her positions and be told to announce that Canada is going to miss its deficit targets and then lose her job the next day. There's a lot of sort of backstory to that right now that a lot of Canadian...
Chrystia Freeland, we know very well. She was a hardball regular back in the day.
Yes, so there's a lot of sort of digging going around on what exactly led to this moment for her to leave.
Yeah.
But it is a devastating blow. We haven't heard directly from the Prime Minister in terms of what his future path forward is. Imagine, let's put this in American perspective. Imagine Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris quits and lists a scathing letter about all the reasons why, accusing him of political gimmicks, and sort of at this moment of just on the eve of an election does this. Imagine what the political ramifications
She might have
be.
won the election. Katie Simpson, thank you very much. Please come back.